Kelly. Join me as I show you how to do the Starbright earrings featuring some SuperDuos and Potomac crystals. Remember, if you need any supplies, look below the video, get the link there to our site, and we'll take you to everything you need to complete the design. The original design was created by Cheryl, thank you, and I doctored it up a little bit to show you two design elements, so make sure you watch through to learn how you can do both with some of the same simple materials. Gather up your beadboard or your bead mat and let's get started. So to create these earrings, we are going to be using some SuperDuos towards the center, and I'll show you how I changed up the design versus Cheryl's original design. We're going to do a little bit more shooting star design versus Cheryl's simple drop. Both are beautiful designs and are started the exact same way with very slight modifications. For my design, I'm going to be using some SuperDuos 4mm rounds, which are also used in the larger star. And I'm using 15s and 11s. In her design here, Cheryl used 8s and 11s, so went a little bit bigger and a little bit bolder. To start out, I have a size 10 beading needle along with some of the new gold DragonThread. And I'm going to start out by picking up 5 of my SuperDuo beads. Those 5 SuperDuo beads, you want to make sure that both holes are open. Sometimes with multi-hole beads, one might be clogged and then you get further in and you get a little sad. So make sure they're all open, put 5 on your needle, and you're going to tie them into their star shape. So just leaving a little bit of a tail here that we will tie onto as we get to the end of the design and have that nice star shape. I did a square knot right over left and left over right. And then we're going to take our needle and thread and go through the next SuperDuo to get the knot kind of stuck inside the SuperDuos that you don't see it much. And we're going to step up. Stepping up, you're going to go from the first or the interior hole of that SuperDuo to the exterior hole of that same SuperDuo. You'll see a tiny bit of that gold thread along the side, but not really anything by the time we add our crystals. In between each of our SuperDuos, go ahead and pick up one of your 4mm Potomac crystal rounds and sew into the empty hole of the next SuperDuo. We originally caught the interior hole of the SuperDuo when we tied it into our square or into our star shape, and now we're going around after stepping up and adding in one of our 4mm rounds between each one of our bicones. Going in here, you add a bicone, add a round and sew through the next SuperDuo. Once you're done adding in your 5 crystal rounds between each one of your SuperDuos, I want you to sew through your first crystal round and bring your thread and needle out. Once your thread and needle are out, we're going to decorate the outer edge with some seed beads. Each 4mm round is going to be capped with 6 15-0 seed beads. My thread's currently coming out of that 4mm round. I've added 6 of my seed beads, and I'm going to sew back through that same 4mm round. The thread is currently coming at the top of the round. We're going into the bottom and bringing our thread and needle back towards our starting spot. Those 6 beads are just going to kind of hang out along the top of the bead here. Sew through your next SuperDuo through the same hole that you've already used on the outside, out your next 4mm round crystal, add 6 seed beads again, and sew through that crystal again from the opposite side to cap the crystal with your 15-0 seed beads, 6 of them. Sew through your SuperDuo, through your next crystal, and you're going to repeat this a total of 5 times, capping each one of your 6mm crystal. Proceed capping the others, and you're going to get a little bit of a floral design as you finish this off. After you finish capping your beads with this 6 beads at a time, what we're going to do is sew back up through beads number 1, 2, and 3 that we just put on the last crystal. Given a nice little tight pull there. And it's going to open up a center piece here. And you are going to pick up one of your 11 seed beads in the same color, or you can change it up if you want it to stand out. And then sew down through the 6 15-0s on the opposite side. So that 11-0 seed bead is going to sit at the top of your crystal, basically, acting like the points of your star. In between, add a 15, 11, 15 combination onto your thread and needle, and then go over to your next group of 6 beads, capping the next crystal. Sew through beads 1, 2, and 3. After you're through that third bead, pick up an 11-0 seed bead and sew down through beads 4, 5, and 6. Again, to get to the next point, add a 15, 11, 15, and then sew into your next group of 3. You're going to do this the whole way around your star, connecting all your little petals and getting all the points into place. Once you get finished going around and connecting, I want you to go back to that first 11-0 that your thread was originally coming out of and bring your needle and thread out there. In case you just want to keep it to a really simple star, here's where you'll stop and add on your wire guard. Our wire guard we're going to add on with an 11-0 right before, just to stop at this, or to top that simple little star. The wire guard, in order to get it to sit a little closer together, like the sample here, I'm just going to grab my pliers, go in and gently go ahead and pinch those two together. From here, add one 4mm bead onto your thread and needle. Add your wire guard. Come down through the other side of the wire guard. Go back into that same 4mm crystal. And then go into the 11-0 from the opposite side. So your thread's coming out the right-hand side here. We added the crystal, went around the wire guard, and now I'm bringing my thread through the left-hand side back to the right of that 11-0. Reinforce, going back up through, and see how that thread wanted to jump there? Make sure your thread, it's always a good teaching point right here, stays in that little U channel. From here, go back up through your crystal, back up through your wire guard. Make sure that thread stays in the U channel, come down through the opposite side, and down through the crystal as well. Again, give a little pinch. Make sure the thread stays in that U channel. I usually just kind of squeeze my fingers there, make sure it's in there, and then sew into the opposite side of that same bead. From here, if you want, you could weave your thread back into the interior, tie it off, and then finish up your little star-shaped earring here, or you can continue on to do your fringe. To touch back on Cheryl's design, all she did was came out of her top bead, added 2 11s, the wire guard, did the exact same thing, coming back down. Where I added an 11-0 on the side, Cheryl separated out her 5 seed beads that she added in 8 O's and popped an 11-0 after bead 2 and after bead 3, coming back down, continuing with that same pattern. I'm going to sew down now and do a little firecrackers kind of there at the edge. So what I'm going to do is come back down through the project along the outer line until we get the whole way down to the bottom 11-0. And when I say the bottom 11-0, what I'm referring to here is going to be the 11-0 that sits exactly opposite, right underneath the SuperDuo from the wire guard. Get down to that 11-0 with your thread coming out of it, and I'll show you how we're going to do our little shooting star sections. As you come down, if you want to do those little shooting star portions, you're going to be coming out of that center bead. Remember that I said that center 11, and I want you to add for your first strand, the shortest one, 9 of your 15 O's, followed by 1 4mm, followed by 1 11-0 seed bead. You're going to take your needle and thread back up through that 4mm bead, and if you can, all those beads at one time. If you can't, we're just discussing on Twitch. It's okay. But it does feel great when you get your needle back through there all at once. All right, pulling that tightly then, you want to make sure that you don't show any extra thread. Kind of push the beads down, hold on to that stop bead, and then just give a nice little tight pull. Go through that 11-0 that your thread is currently coming out of, and we're going to repeat the same thing on the opposite side. So one strand is going to go to the right of that bead, one strand to the left, and then we're going to center the middle strand and make that our longest one. Our next one here, instead of 9, we're going to drop it down into 12 of our 15 O's. Do the exact same thing. Come on back up and sew through that middle 11 O C bead. Once you sew through the middle 11 O C bead, we're going to drop 15 beads down, sew back up, and I'll show you how we're going to center it out. So once you get done with your center row of 15, having that 11 at the bottom, you're going to sew back up through that whole line of beads. Money just caught all of them here. And just like we did with the 11O at the top, whatever side your thread is coming out of this 11O, I'm coming out on the right there, I'm going to sew into the left and then back through to the right. Just like the crystal at the top then, this pushes that bead right down to the middle, so it looks like it's coming straight out of the middle. From here, all we're going to do is sew back along the beads along the side here, through those 3 15s, leading up to the 11, through the 3 15s after the 11. If you go through the 11 too, either way is fine. Going into the crystal that sits below, into your SuperDuo. We're going to downgrade, go through that baseline of the SuperDuo, and you're going to sew through all of those SuperDuos, you guessed it, right till you get to that starter thread. The gold thread is really nice and matches kind of perfectly with the design, even next to the silver. You're going to grab your 2 thread ends, tie those off once and twice. If you want to, you can always add more of the little fringe sections as well. Go ahead and burn off those thread ends. Once you burn off your thread ends there, then you are just going to go in, open up your ear wire, put it on here, and then close it up to finish up your earrings. In Cheryl's design for her drops, if you want to do the bigger ones with 8s and 11s, all she did was come down at the bottom between the 2, added a couple seed beads to get to the bottom of the drop, back up, and did the exact same thing, knotting in the middle of the design. So whether or not you go big with your 8s and 11s and have a little dagger on the bottom, or decide to have yours be a little bit more dainty with 15s and drops, you can achieve both looks with a start of 4mm rounds and your SuperDuo beads. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these Starbright earrings. They're really fun whether or not you do a dagger at the bottom. You can do a couple different strands hanging down, make them really long, or keep them very simple and just have the star shape as well. Remember, if you need any of the materials, go ahead and look below the video in the description. We have a link there to our website. If you change up the design at all, we would love to hear from you, so make sure you comment below and help out other Potomac beaders that may be watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks, Cheryl, so much for the inspiration on these Starbright earrings, and enjoy creating them, and stay tuned for more inspirational videos from us here at Potomac Beads.